Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert and welcome back to prediction season. We are kicking off our 2022 predictions with arguably the most polarizing team in all of college football, led by one of the most polarizing figures in all of college football. We are starting with the USC Trojans out of the Pac-12, who are going through a not-so-average coaching change as they bring in Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma. Riley going 55-10 in 5 years with the Sooners, now heading out west to LA. And he made headlines, guys, not just for the move, the surprising move from Oklahoma to USC, but for the job that he did in the transfer portal. I mean, listen to this. Bringing in guys like quarterback Caleb Williams from Oklahoma, Oregon's top running back in Travis Dye, who rushed for over 1,200 yards last year for the Ducks. Stanford's top running back in Austin Jones to bring in two Pac-12 rivals' top running backs over to USC. Wide receiver Mario Williams from Oklahoma. Wide receiver Brendan Rice from Colorado. Wide receiver Jordan Addison from Pittsburgh. The Biletnikoff winner from 2021. Of course, the award that goes to the best wide receiver in the country. And then on defense, bringing in guys like linebacker Shane Lee from Alabama and cornerback Mekhi Blackman from Colorado. This team, guys, is absolutely loaded. And when you take a look at some of the numbers from last year, these numbers, guys, brought to you by our good friend Connor Hibbett over at College Football Encyclopedia. Make sure to go give him a look. His link to his page down in the description below. When you look at these numbers, guys, USC is just 75th in returning production. But the majority of their team is now made up of transfers that Lincoln Riley has brought in. So don't let those numbers fool you. 75th in returning production. The offensive numbers are bound to improve. The defensive numbers have to improve under Alex Grinch. That's what they need if USC wants to start contending. They've got to improve on defense, and they've got to improve in the trenches, as the offensive line is a major concern, as well as the defensive line. So, guys, again, this team is loaded. Lincoln Riley has the pieces to make USC a contender again. The Trojans coming off a 4-8 season in 2021. They're just 22-21 in the last 4 years, and that is unacceptable out in LA. Will Lincoln Riley turn things around in year one? We take a look at their schedule. We're going to go ahead and give them a quick win over Rice. That's going to be a great way for all of the USC fans and really for the nation to see what Lincoln Riley's team is made of. Again, not necessarily a quality opponent in Rice, but a great opportunity for these transfers to start gelling together. They get into Pac-12 play in Week 2 at Stanford. It's always a weird game when USC faces the Cardinal. Stanford has actually won 5 of the last 8 games against the Trojans, including last year, where in Week 2, Stanford annihilated USC 42-28, a game that for me, that score looks a little bit closer than the game really was. Tanner McKee is a guy that's getting a lot of hype over at Stanford, the quarterback for them. He threw for over 234 yards and 2 touchdowns last year against USC. And I think he will challenge this USC defense, one that does need some help. But at the end of the day, guys, Stanford did have the worst defense in the Pac-12 last year. And with this USC offense that Lincoln Riley has built up, I don't see the Cardinals standing a chance, even with home field advantage. USC 2-0, the conference win. They take on Fresno State. We're going to give them a win here, but they can't overlook this game. Fresno State, great quarterback in Jake Haener. They beat UCLA last year, only lost to Oregon by 7 last year. And the week before this, there's a good chance that Fresno State could take down Oregon State. So this is a Bulldogs team that should not be overlooked by anybody, especially a USC team that is still a little iffy on defense. This could be a shootout in the Coliseum, but we're going to give the win to USC. So it's 3-0. Speaking of Oregon State, USC travels to Oregon State in Week 4 to ground out September. The Trojans lost to the Beavers 45-27 last year at home at the Coliseum. It was embarrassing. The Beavers finally made a bowl game for the first time since 2013, and they now returned 15 starters. But here's the thing. The Beavers were 92nd in the country against the pass last year. Expect Caleb Williams to light this team up, especially with all the wide receivers that USC has brought in. The Beavers were also just 80th in passing offense last year. And if you're going to play USC, and if you want to beat USC, not only do you have to have a decent defense this year, but you have to have an offense to match them step for step. And Oregon State simply does not have that. So while this is a bit of a trap game, again, an 18-point swing would have to happen here. This is such a different USC team. I don't think that they're going to be able to fall on the road here. I believe they're going to beat the Beavers. They're going to be 4-0 heading into October and potentially a top 10 team as they head to Arizona State. The Trojans fell to Arizona State, guys, 31-16 last year, but just like USC is a different team, Arizona State's a very different team, and not in a good way. Arizona State is to put it bluntly, a dumpster fire this year. Tons of NCAA investigations and allegations going against them. Jaden Daniels, their star quarterback, is out. Coaches and players have transferred left and right. They've lost their entire secondaries. They're going to have to rebuild that from the ground up, and that's not good when you're facing one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and Caleb Williams. So I believe USC wins this game comfortably against Arizona State, and the same can be said for their game against Washington State, a team they beat 45-14 last year. The Cougars should be more competitive across the board. They have a star quarterback in Cameron Ward, but again, the game being at home at USC, a Washington State team that's getting there, but not quite yet to be considered a Pac-12 title contender, one of the Pac-12 elites. USC wins that game, and they are, again, undefeated heading into the biggest game of the year in Salt Lake City against Utah. This game, guys, will determine everything. It is huge for the Pac-12 title, which team gets in. It is huge for potential playoff berths, as at this point USC will be taken seriously as one, and we would imagine Utah would also be a playoff contender. Utah has won 3 of the last 4 games against USC in Salt Lake City. Last year, the Utes beat USC in LA 42-26. Thing about Utah is this, guys. They have everything they need to not just make a playoff run, but obviously they have everything they need to hang with USC. They have the offense to match them step for step with a star quarterback in Cam Rising and their star running back Tavion Thomas. They have the defense to shut down Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, a Utah defense that ranked 27th in the country last year. They have home field advantage. Salt Lake City, a very difficult place to play. Rice-Eccles Stadium, a very difficult place to play. And I believe that the Utes hand USC their first loss on October 15th. Utah will win this game in Salt Lake City. Home field advantage is going to be key in this one, guys. And again, these two teams match up extremely well, and that's going to benefit Utah more than it's going to benefit USC. The Utes win that game, guys, and put themselves in the driver's seat of the Pac-12. USC enters their bye week, and the rest of their schedule is pretty favorable up until the end against UCLA and Notre Dame. They take on Arizona, who was the worst team in the Pac-12 last year. Arizona's, like USC, brought in a handful of transfers, including Jaden DeLora from Washington State. USC, that game was 41-34 last year, so only beat them by 7, but should win by a much wider margin this year, especially coming off a week of rest. California, they lost to the Golden Bears by 10 last year. Again, USC lost to a lot of teams last year that typically they wouldn't lose to. It was a historic season for bad reasons in 2021. They fell to California 24-14, but they now get them at home. And like we mentioned with a couple of these other teams, California does not have the offense by any means to hang with USC. So again, USC, as the year goes on, should be improving slowly but surely on defense, and that's going to help them against some of these teams with inferior offenses. So believe USC runs away with the game against California. They run away with the game against Colorado. They beat them 37-14 last year, and Colorado arguably will be the worst team in the Pac-12 in 2022. And then you come into these final 2 games, guys, against UCLA and Notre Dame. Those are 2 tough tests. So again, after the bye week, they win 3 straight games. They're only a 1-loss team, so USC is a playoff contender at this point. 2 weeks left. They're a Pac-12. They're in the hunt for the Pac-12 title, and they're in the hunt to make the college football playoff. The game against UCLA is going to be tough. They lost to the Bruins 62-33 last year. And UCLA and the Bruins, guys, they are a team that can match USC step for step offensively. They have Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback, dual threat QB. Zach Charbonnet is back at running back. Yes, UCLA did have the worst passing defense in the Pac-12 last year, but they were also second in the Pac-12 versus the run. I expect this to be a very high-scoring game. They're going to be able to limit the run game by USC. Keep in mind, Lincoln Riley does like to run the ball quite a bit. He did that quite a bit at Oklahoma, so it's not going to be just air raid with Caleb Williams. UCLA finds a way to shut down the run game of USC, which is going to force them to throw. Chip Kelly can adjust his defense to focus more on the pass, and therefore I believe UCLA, at the Rose Bowl on senior night for the Bruins, wins this game. I don't see a 29-point swing despite all the changes that USC has made. UCLA wins this game in a shootout at the Rose Bowl, ends USC's playoff hopes, but the Trojans do finish out their year with a high, beating Notre Dame in the season finale. I know a lot of people aren't going to like that pick if you're a Notre Dame fan, but here's the thing, guys. I don't think Notre Dame right now has the pieces offensively to hang with USC. I have a lot of questions at the wide receiver position, a lot of unknowns there. I like Tyler Buckner at quarterback. The offensive line should be great, and the defense should once again be solid. I think this game in LA is going to be extremely close. But on senior night for USC, looking to end their year on a high. Lincoln Riley's first Notre Dame USC matchup, big time rivalry game here. I think USC just squeaks by the Fighting Irish and possibly could end Notre Dame's playoff hopes, depending on what their record is coming in to this last game of the year. So again, USC last year with a bad team only fell 31-16 in South Bend last year. 15 points in South Bend, to me, not a horrible loss. Now with a much better team at home, Notre Dame dealing with a bunch of new pieces, I believe the Trojans get the job done, and they're going to finish the year at 10-2. And guys, if you're Lincoln Riley, if you are a USC fan, you are thrilled with that. 10-2, potentially making the Pac-12 championship game. Remember, there's no divisions this year. 10-2 could get you there, and if it doesn't, it's probably going to get you to a New Year's Six bowl game. And in year one, that's an unbelievable feat, considering, again, that the Trojans are just right above 500 over the last 4 years, 22-21 over the last 4 years. So guys, USC football is back. USC football is back. Whether you like it or not, Lincoln Riley has single-handedly transformed this entire team into a contender. Again, it's not your average coaching change. You're not going to see many growing pains from USC in 2022. If anything, they're going to be an immediate contender, not just in the Pac-12, but on the national stage. And the Trojans are a team that you need to watch out for. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below, including, guys, our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. If you want some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, you need to go check out our website and sign up for those today so you don't miss out on any of our picks and any of our games when the season starts. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.